Before we begin, I have a quick request. If you love spine-chilling stories, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This helps us continue bringing you more incredible stories. And when you're done, tell me in the comments, which of these stories affected you the most? The night has its own secrets. Its shadows hide more than we can imagine. For those who work while the rest of the world sleeps, the early hours can be a terrifying mystery. Many women who make a living at night have experienced the inexplicable encounters with strange clients, whispers in the dark, silhouettes that vanish into thin air. Sometimes, the greatest danger doesn't come from the living, but from what lurks in the shadows. Today, you will hear 4 true stories from women of the night who saw something that should never have been seen, something that remained forever in their memories and in the dark corridors of the early morning. You've been warned. Now, proceed at your own risk. Amanda had always worked at night. She was well aware of the risks of the profession. Dangerous clients, traps, strange calls. But nothing had prepared her for that night. It was past 3 a.m. when a mysterious man approached her on the street. He was tall, pale, dressed in a black suit. His voice was deep, yet his lips didn't move when he spoke. "I want to take you to a special place." Amanda hesitated, but he offered an absurd amount of money. Against her intuition, she accepted. They got into his car, and he drove her to a rundown hotel in the city center. The elevator was broken, and they climbed the stairs in silence. When they reached the room, something felt off. The air was heavy, cold, and the bathroom mirror was completely fogged up, as if someone had just stepped out of a hot shower. The man sat on the bed without saying a word. Feeling uneasy, Amanda turned to grab her phone and saw that his reflection was missing from the mirror. Her heart pounded. "What is this?" She screamed, stepping back. The man smiled for the first time, but his teeth were long, sharp. The door slammed shut on its own. Amanda threw herself against it, twisting the doorknob with all her strength until she finally managed to get out. She ran down the hotel corridors, but there was no one there. When she reached the reception desk, there were no employees. The place was completely abandoned. The entire hotel was empty, and the room she had been in didn't exist in the building's records. To this day, Amanda doesn't know who or what that man was. But sometimes, when passing by the same street, she feels invisible eyes watching her. The nightclub was a place where the night never seemed to end. The scent of sweet perfume mixed with alcohol, colorful lights, and the sound of loud music. Larissa had worked there for years and knew that sensuality was part of the game. She enjoyed the attention, the power she had over the gazes that desired her on stage. But backstage, the energy was different. In the dark corridors, in the stuffy dressing rooms, something felt wrong. The older girl spoke of a dancer who had never left. She killed herself in dressing room number 4. Slit her wrists right there, in front of the mirror. They whispered. Some said you could still hear nails scratching against the glass, as if she were trying to escape from the other side. Larissa never believed in legends, at least not until that night. It was a regular night. After work, the girls had already left, and Larissa stayed behind, removing her makeup. The club's music had gone silent. The only sound was that of her own movements, sliding cotton over her shadowed eyes. She wore only red lace lingerie when she realized she was no longer alone. In the mirror's reflection, behind her, a woman was watching. A red dress, black hair cascading over her shoulders, dark lips, and a vacant, lifeless gaze. A chill ran down Larissa's spine, but she didn't turn around. Her heart pounded so hard it seemed to fill the entire dressing room. "It's just my imagination," she whispered to herself. But then, the woman in the mirror smiled. Her red lips stretched beyond what was humanly possible, revealing sharp teeth and dark gums. Larissa finally spun around, a scream stuck in her throat. But the dressing room was empty. And yet, the perfume lingered in the air, the sickly sweet scent of jasmine and blood. Larissa tried to laugh at herself, calling it paranoia. She lit a cigarette, trying to calm down, but when she looked back at the mirror, the woman was still there, now behind her, so close that Larissa felt the cold touch of invisible hands on her bare waist. She trembled. The mirror cracked on its own, a fracture spreading like dark veins across the glass. The dressing room turned ice cold. Larissa ran, her bare feet pounding against the wooden floor, her breath ragged. She never went back there alone again. The next day, she found her things exactly as she had left them. But the mirror was intact, except for the mark of a blood-stained hand on the glass. Since then, some dancers swear they smell a strange perfume in the air. Always after the last show, Juliana always enjoyed working the night shift. The convenience store was on a busy avenue, where customers came and went nonstop. Many lonely men passed through, some trying to flirt, others just watching her from behind the counter. She was used to hungry stares, to bold pickup lines accompanied by the sound of the cash register opening. Sometimes, she even enjoyed the game. But that night, the gaze following her wasn't human. Around 3:45 a.m., the store was empty. Juliana adjusted her tight blouse, ran her fingers over her lips to check her lipstick, and glanced at her reflection in the glass of the beverage freezer. Business was slow, and the boredom of the night made her crave any kind of distraction. That's when the automatic door slid open. A gust of cold wind rushed in, making the hairs on her arms stand on end. A man in a black hoodie stepped inside. Slowly, soundlessly. He didn't glance around, just walked toward the back of the store and stopped in front of the refrigerated aisle. Juliana waited for him to pick something, but he didn't move. The screen of her phone went dark in her hand. "Good evening. Can I help you?" she asked, her voice as sweet as ever. The man didn't answer. The air inside the store felt heavy, as if the oxygen had thinned. Juliana felt a discomfort in her chest. Something was wrong. Minutes passed. The man didn't grab anything, didn't look around. He just stood there. She cleared her throat, trying to mask her unease. "If you need anything, just let me know." The sensation of being watched grew even stronger. The fluorescent light above the aisle where the man stood flickered twice. Juliana crossed her arms, restless. She felt her body heating up, but not from warmth. It was a mix of tension and something she couldn't explain. Her mouth went dry. She realized she was breathing a little too fast, as if this stranger was radiating an addictive, dangerous energy. And then, he turned toward her. Her heart stopped for a second. His hood slid back slightly, and Juliana caught a glimpse of his face. Or what should have been a face. There was only darkness. A hollow void. No eyes. No mouth. Juliana stumbled backward. Panic surged up her throat. The entire store shook. The glass bottles in the refrigerator shattered on their own, and the lights flickered violently. The ice cream freezer began to creak, as if something inside was scratching at the metal. The automatic door slid open, but the man didn't leave. Juliana tried to run, but her feet were stuck to the floor, as if something invisible was holding her ankles. The man started moving toward her, floating. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Then, in the very last second, everything stopped. Silence exploded around her. The lights returned to normal. The broken glass was gone. The refrigerator was intact. The man was no longer there. Juliana collapsed to her knees, gasping, her whole body trembling. Cold sweat trickled down her neck. The automatic door opened again. But this time, it was just a regular customer walking into the store. With trembling hands, she got up. She walked to the back of the store, where the man had been standing. On the clean white floor, blackened, footprints like burn marks led to the exit. Camilla had seen it all on the cold city nights. She had been a rideshare driver for almost 2 years and knew that the night belonged to the lost, the lonely, and the dangerous. but nothing compared to what happened that night. It was past 3:30 a.m. when the ride request popped up on the app. Passenger, Miguel. Destination, unknown. The pickup location was on an unlit street, surrounded by twisted trees and old houses. Something about it sent a chill down her spine. But the surge pricing was high, and money spoke louder. When she arrived at the address, he was already there. Tall, slender, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit. The flickering streetlight cast a glow over his face, revealing sharp, pale features. Dangerously attractive. Instinctively, Camilla licked her lips. The man exuded a peculiar charm, something irresistible. He opened the car door slowly, sliding inside with smooth, almost supernatural movements. His scent filled the car, a mix of woody cologne and something heavier. Metallic. Sweet. "Good evening," he said, his voice resonating in the cabin like a seductive whisper. Camilla took a deep breath, trying to ignore the shiver running down her spine. "Good evening. Where are we going?" He smiled, the corner of his lips curving. Subtly, "Just drive. I'll tell you when we get there." There was something about the way he spoke, the way his dark eyes devoured her through the rearview mirror, that made Camilla swallow hard. She started the car, and silence took over the ride. The eyes in the mirror. They drove down the deserted avenue. Camilla could feel his gaze burning into her neck, desire and fear intertwined inside her. His scent kept saturating the air, intoxicating her senses. "Do you always work alone?" he asked suddenly. His voice slithered over her skin like an invisible touch. A chill ran down her thighs. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel and let out a nervous laugh. "Almost always." He smiled again, but this time, there was something wicked in his expression. "That must be dangerous. Some people who get into your car might never leave." Her stomach dropped. The road was getting darker, the city lights fading behind them. When had she even accepted this ride? She glanced at the rearview mirror and her heart nearly stopped. He was no longer in the back seat. The seat was empty. A cold shiver ran up her spine. She felt warm breath against her ear. "We're almost there." The car came to a stop on its own in front of a rusty gate. It was a cemetery. Camilla slowly turned around, and he was there again. But he was no longer the same. His face was pale as a corpse, his eyes sunken, his skin almost translucent under the dim light of the street lamp. His smile was too sharp. The car door opened on its own. He stepped out, gliding toward the gate. Before vanishing among the tombstones, he turned back to her, tilted his head, and winked. Camilla couldn't move. The car was filled with the overpowering scent of old flowers and dried flesh. On the back seat, a single red rose rested, beside an old photograph. It was a picture of a man identical to the passenger, with a date engraved on it. 1874, 1902. Her phone screen vibrated, a notification from the app. "Ride cancelled. This passenger does not exist." Camilla sped away without looking back. The next morning, when she finally had the courage to check the car, she found the backseat burned, in the shape of a seated figure. The night is never truly empty. The late hours have their own inhabitants. For some women who work at night, the danger doesn't come only from the living, but from what lurks in the shadows. Have you ever had a terrifying experience in the middle of the night? Maybe the next time you walk alone at night, you'll realize you're not really alone. If you enjoyed these stories, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell for more chilling tales. See you in the next video.